Okay. So how's it going, man? How you doing?
Yeah, really good. Good to connect from the other side of the planet for you from here in Australia. So, podcasting is wonderful to connect around the world.
That was the first question I wanted to ask, really. Australia or New Zealand? It was like
Okay.
it had to be one of those. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, we have a distinct accent, don't we? So, yeah, Australia, just outside of Melbourne. So, yeah.
Do you know what the particular difference is? Because I always get it wrong.
Yeah, it's very close. I had a podcast just yesterday with a New Zealander, and I thought he was Australian. So, it wasn't till toward the end of the show that I realized he wasn't. So, it's very, very similar. I can understand why people can't pick it.
I
Yeah.
had a New Zealander on my pod. I've had lots of Australians and New Zealanders on this. There was one guy I interviewed. He was he started some full on charity service to help people. And the thing about him was he actually was paralyzed from the neck down from a rugby accident. And you know how big rugby is in New Zealand, right? But yeah, very motivational guy. I mean, I could tell you about that episode and maybe you
Yeah,
might be
I'll
interested in that. But yeah,
I'll
they
look it
got
up.
a
Yeah.
yeah, but I've had some people on there.
Yeah, nice, nice.
So can you tell me a bit about yourself, who you are, what you're about, maybe what your message is?
Sure, sure. So I'm Wes Towers from Uplift 360 here in Australia. And so we're a digital agency. So we do websites, we do SEO, a whole bunch of stuff in the digital front. But obviously, with AI, the last few years, things are changing fast and it's exciting and terrifying time helping our clients, but also adapting to all the changes. It just feels as though it's never been more important to remain human in this artificial age that we're living in. So artificial, it's kind of like artificial food. We know it's not healthy for us necessarily. It well never is for food, and but it fulfills something in us that we crave for. But it's artificial. It's not the authentic sometimes, and so there's a missing element. So I think it's the human element that we need to focus in on in these days. So
Artificial. What does that mean?
artificial, yeah. So so when you think about artificial intelligence AI, all it's doing is basically taking information from a broad range of sources and bringing it into something perceived to be new, but it's not necessarily genuinely new because it's just deriving information from a whole bunch of places and then creating something, distilling it down into something different. So it's lacking the genuinely creative aspect. It's those. I'm a creative by heart. I studied graphic design, multimedia, so I value the creative side of everything, business, and I mean designing websites and so on is what I do as a profession. But those human elements that only we can do, think that's where the real value is. We're seeing an erosion of trust online and everywhere in the world, really, just because content can be produced at scale, at mass, and it can be perceived to be real. I mean, the videos that are created now that of people who have long passed, so we realize they're not genuinely true. You know, Michael Jackson, I was looking at a video of him, which definitely wasn't a real footage, but it looks so realistic. So that's kind of intriguing for us as people, but also we realize we can't necessarily trust what we're seeing anymore. So that creates a whole bunch of concerns and potential problems down the line.
Yeah, well, tell me about that. I would say this too. I have, some experience in that from my degree experience. I do have a master's in communications, and there was an entire sector of that entirely delegated to just misinformation, disinformation, and those types of things, and how the media tries to fool us, shift our views. So, again, you don't need to really, convince me on that, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
100%. Yeah, you would know it better than I, of course, with the studies. And I think intuitively, most people know there's a real problem um, at hand right now.
and it's like that in politics too. They have like a
Mm.
new service called Ground News. And it's essentially this service that allows you to filter out different types of things to know what political agenda each newspaper stands by. And again, this is a very big thing. So continue. What was the point you were trying to make from all that?
Yeah. So just well, we come at it from a marketing perspective. So we're helping businesses stand out online for the services and products they deliver. We work with mainly trades and construction businesses. So we've just needed to adapt a lot of ways in which we go to market, simply because so many people are jumping online and producing content at scale from a marketing perspective, but it's all bland and generic because it's all derived from whatever everyone else has already said and published. So we really need to think about how we come at it from a unique angle, which is genuinely theirs, a message that's uniquely theirs, their convictions, what they think matters in business, what they deliver that might be slightly different to everybody else, because they're the true distinctions that matter in this day and age. I think that, I mean, there's a lot of talk about currency. What's the currency? Are we going to crypto? What happens to the dollar? All these kind of conversations. Well, I think I know what the new currency is. And the new currency is trust. There's an erosion of trust in everything that we're seeing online. And so if you can create and build trust in your business, in your personal brand, in your company brand, then that's the new currency. That's where true value lies always. So, even in like to draw the analogy of money currency, if we don't trust these ideas that we kind of all agree upon, then there's no value in them. What is a dollar? It's just something that we've all agreed upon that it's worth something, and we can exchange it for goods and services and so on. So if we all of a sudden stop to trusting it, well, what is it worth? It's worthless. And same with crypto and everything like that. So I believe we're coming into a time where businesses need to find a way to create a higher level of trust, because we know there's just so much inauthentic information out there. And so we need every pillar that we can create to signal trust in a brand. So reviews, Google reviews, things that you can't easily manipulate or manufacture. They're the key pillars, I think, for every good business.
So you specialize in the construction agency, right?
Yeah, that's right. And that's part of why we're really doubling down on the trust factor, simply because here in Australia, and it's probably happening in lots of parts of the world, but we've had lots of construction companies go bankrupt. And this is a horrible thing because, we had that boom time and everyone was doing well here and builders were doing well, but then their building materials pricing went up. So a lot of people were locked into fixed cost contracts to build homes, for example. And so when the building materials price went up, then there was no more margin and builders were building at a loss. And so lots of companies went under at that time. And it's still happening here right now. The builders struggle, construction companies struggle, and that trickles down to all the trades people as well, because they're waiting for their payments from the construction company. The impact was huge, but there's a lot of people building their homes. For example, they might be halfway through their home, their dream home. They've had their customized design. Everything's going great, and they're imagining themselves already in the home. Then the builder disappears, bankrupt overnight. So they're halfway through a project. That's a huge stress because it's really difficult for another builder to take it on, because there's so many complications, and who owns the rights to the plans, for example, just something as simple as that. But also builders are reluctant to take on other people's messes as well. So if a business is going bankrupt, it's likely that they've cut some corners along the way to whatever point they are in the project. So for us and our clientele, the trust factor is huge. They need to find a way to communicate to their potential customers that they're reliable, that they'll do what they said they're going to do, resilient, all these sorts of things. The trust in their company is really important, that they build their marketing around trust factors, just so they can attract the right clientele. So, I mean, that authentic message as well, to when things there are challenges, those companies that can communicate the challenge, but also present a path forward. I think they're going to be the ones that stand out in this day and age as well. I think we're all looking for what's authentic, what's real. I think real beats perfect all the time. Real authentic messaging that'll attract the right ideal clients. I talk from a business standpoint because that's what we do, but those principles probably are valuable right through everything that we're dealing with right now in the world.
What do you think is so unique about Australia's just the way it is that might create these issues? Do you think it might have anything to do with that?
To a degree, there's always nuance in every market. Australia is a smaller market comparatively to, say, the US, for example. It's quite a large landmass, but just less population. So we've got unique challenges around that. But there's a cost of living crisis. I've done a lot of podcasts over the last few months. I think I've done maybe 70 podcasts. So talking to mostly people not in Australia, and it seems to echo and be true across the board that there's the cost of living crisis, money is tighter, things are challenging for people. Housing it seems to be a challenging scenario across the board. Everyone,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
you're definitely right. Here in America, it's rough too for a lot of people.
yeah. So it is really interesting how those same headwinds and challenges seem to be everywhere. The US, obviously, as you know, and Canada's having a massive problem as well. And it seems everywhere's got these same set of challenges. And it's just curious. It's interesting to know how we're going to navigate our way through these challenges. I don't know. Have you got any ideas around that?
That's not my expertise at all.
Yeah, me neither. But we just look at it from the perspective of our customers and think, okay, how are we going to position this business so that they can be found, trusted, because trust is the thing that's eroded right now, and to be chosen, obviously, for people to choose them to work with them and invest their money into what they're providing. Yeah, and that's really the key from what we're looking at. But it is interesting to see what's happening in the world right now, and also other challenges we're facing governmentally. The government are really keen to support the environment and other valuable things that we need to look after. But every positive goal comes at a cost, and that's not to say the cost isn't worth it, but it does mean that those people that are already struggling need to bear the brunt of that cost. And then that's probably creating some of the cost of living crisis as well. I mean, our energy is costing us so much more. And for those people that are already really, really tight for cash, it's a huge challenge. But it feels as though they're goals that we need to pursue because the globe is kind of important that we look after it, obviously. But how we get through it so we minimize the damage to the families and people doing it tough. It's really challenging.
Australia has a lot of wildlife. I've been there before when I was much younger, but when you really look at
Yeah.
Australia, only a few areas are really where most people inhabit, and then it's just a lot of
Yeah.
wildlife and a lot of different
Yeah.
things. So there really is not a lot of area to work with.
Yeah, you're right. So there's so many animals and wildlife that can kill you. You know, crocodiles and spiders, and we've got the cute ones too, the kangaroos and the koalas.
Mhm.
Everyone wants to see those, but there's obviously things that sharks and so on. There's so much here. But you're right. So the population is generally speaking all around the coast. We love to be by the ocean. Um, and you know the water. I think that's pretty common around the world. People love to be on the coast where they can, but in the middle there's this kind of desert, and there are people living remotely for the most part. It's all around the edges.
So, kind of going back to your business, what were some of the unique solutions you gave to companies in order to build trust?
Yeah, so we're looking at uh, the search engine optimization is a service we've always provided. So that's an attempt to show up in Google as highly as you can for as many phrases as you possibly can that are related to your business. But we've had to shift gears with that to we're calling it search everywhere optimization because it's not just Google anymore. And everywhere's a lot of places, and that can be frightening. But I mean, you want to show up in social platforms where people might be for your ideal clients. The obviously podcasts are great because it's a collaboration. So those that can do it, it's all of a sudden it's two people typically who can share the message to their audiences. Anything that's content and bringing value builds trust. So that's what we're encouraging all our clients to do. So to provide insights and valuable information. Back in the day, we used to, or every business used to have like a lead magnet. So it was some piece of information in exchange for an email address, typically. So you could, for the term of their natural lives, be marketed to through their email. And we knew, whilst it said it was free, it wasn't really free because we were giving away part of our privacy. And so things have changed so much these days. We're more reluctant to give away our email address, and we don't need to because the information is available at our fingertips if we just use large language models. ChatGPT is the one I look for. So if I'm needing a piece of information, I'm less likely to download a free resource from someone's website and end up on their database and end up getting a bunch of emails. I'm more likely just to jump on ChatGPT, ask the question, get the solution right away. So those, so we're still encouraging clients to publish the content, but give it freely. So it's available not just for human readers, but also the large language models that they can pick it up and use your information in their models. So then your brand can surface. So that really does build trust. If you can show up in ChatGPT as the authority in the space you play in, that's magic. We had a client recently had a great success story. We'd only worked for him a little while, and I think he'd invested only $3,000, but he won a project $140,000 in that time, simply because ChatGPT recommended him as the very best provider of the service in which he provides. And the company that was found him, they weren't even local to him. They were quite a distance away. I think they were in Brisbane. He was in Geelong near Melbourne, so quite a distance. But they were just looking for the very best person who provides the service offering in Australia, and he showed up. So that's those trust building signals that you can publish the right information and be seen as the authority in the space that you work in, the niche you work in. That's the power of doing that the right way.
You know, I had a friend in one of my MBA programs. They
Mm.
said basically ChatGPT is just a fancy Google search engine. And you saying this right now has sort of solidified that point in my head because now you're applying this to the real world and even you noticed this, so it's very fascinating that you would say something like that because it really does clarify that truth to a lot of people as well.
Yeah, it's trying to achieve the same goal. So that's the thing to always remember. No matter how it changes, all the tools are trying to do the same thing. They're trying to surface the very best information for whatever someone's inquiring about. The difference is back in the day, old school SEO, Google, and so on, people would search really simple terms. So there might be the service and the location. So it might be plumber, Melbourne, for example, that we knew that that's how the tools kind of operated and that's what they could understand. So we did it that way. But now, because it's large language models, we know that it understands the full context of a full sentence. So we'll search for whole paragraphs and sentences in large language models, but we'll also do that same thing in Google now because we know Google understand to a large degree what we're saying precisely. So we can really be specific in what we're looking for. We're not searching for plumber Melbourne anymore. We're looking for the plumber who deals with a certain product line or a certain scenario, or might have a solution to the specific project that you have in mind, fixing a leaky toilet, for example, or whatever it is. You're going to get really specific in full sentences and talk about the location which you need them. So it's the same, but it's just far more sophisticated. So yeah.
But what you're doing is to get that information on the plumber, you're essentially assisting maybe the contractor and being like, okay, what do you want? Okay, plumber, now we got to get the subcontractor to mark. How does that work?
Yeah, so there's a couple of aspects in a website. So there's the main sales pages, there's the core pages that are clear, concise, compelling, so people can sort of glance at it because no one's reading word for word. They're just so rushed, but to glance at it, get a grasp and make an inquiry. That's your main pages, but behind the scenes, we will encourage our clients to have a blog or news or insight somewhere where they can publish lots of quality content around really specific areas in which they serve. And so for our clients, it might be that they send us their project details, the sheet that they work from, and we can use that and adapt it into a case study for their website. So that it's all fuel for large language models because it's all pulling it from somewhere, and it may as well be your website, ideally, particularly when someone's searching for a local service offering. If you're showing up for all the right phrases and dealing with all the content that people might be looking for, then it positions you as the expert in the field. So that's kind of what we're doing. So it's kind of two strategies: the clear, concise, compelling, the main sales pages of your website, but then fueling it behind the scenes with lots and lots of information that's quality still. It can't just be generic. And that's the way we attract the right people to the website.
Which one of these two components is usually the best one or the most important?
Of these two things. So well, they work hand in hand. So the main pages of your website need to be getting the inquiry. So their goal is to take a visitor to the site and get them booked to some degree. So get them to take some form of call to action. It might be to request a quote, make a phone call to talk about a project, buy something effectively. That's where that decision is made. But the other pages are there to attract people so they even see your website in the first place. So that's a two prong. They're both really important. It's kind of like a yin and yang. Both they're kind of intertwined together, and both are really important. And you can't typically survive too long if you only focus on one element. Um, sometimes for a client that comes to us, they'll be lacking in one of the areas, and we'll focus our attention on that lack. But others they need a bit of a boost in both aspects.
What are some of your what have you noticed recently? What is generally the biggest problem right now with a lot of your clients that you're fixing?
Yeah, well, for us, because as I said, we work with mainly the construction companies and trades. A lot of them in the boom time, which really wasn't that long ago, they let their online presence lag because there was just an abundance of work. Everyone had more than enough work and they were able to turn away projects that weren't a great fit. So that meant that they could get really sloppy with their marketing because they just didn't need to market effectively because there was just way too much work anyway. So everything lagged. And then all of a sudden, it felt fairly rapid that things changed. And so there was less work flowing through. And so all of a sudden, people needed to revamp their websites and readjust their message because every business evolves and adapts and changes over time. So people needed to go, okay, our website is really outdated. This is how we need to refresh the message. The message is the priority, but then also the technology. Technology changes so fast too, the way in which you build the website, people's expectations, what things should be, the user experience. So there's certain positions things should be in a website so people can easily navigate, for example, or to find what they need to really quite quick without thinking too much. So refreshing the structure and the user experience, refreshing the message. All of these things are typically needed to be done fairly frequently, and people let them lapse all the time. So refreshing these things, coming at it, and it's a good time of year, obviously. I mean, I don't know when this will be published for people to listen to, but the Christmas, New Year kind of time where people might take a little bit of time off. It's a great time to people have New Year's resolutions. I think every business leader should take the time to reflect upon what's been and think about what might be in the year to come to readjust the message and tighten up the marketing message so it can stand the test of time.
So could you give me an example of a message you tried to give to a business that was very effective?
Sometimes saying less is more. In fact, that's usually the case. We took on a project not so long ago now. It's nearly ready to press publish on. It's just not quite ready. We're waiting for a couple of photographs. But the main thing for them was they just had so much in the website. So over the course of years, they've been operating, I don't know, 30 years, something like that. The website the current website has probably been around a lot, I don't know, maybe it's been around 7 years, something like that. But they kept adding stuff to it, but they never removed anything. And so that sounds good in principle, but it dilutes the message. The more you say sometimes, the less impact what you're saying has, because no one's really reading every page of your website. No one's reading all the content. They're just skimming through and finding the aspects of it that matter to them. So by saying too much, you're saying nothing at all. This is in your main website pages, the sales pages. So we removed a whole heap. We've reworked their content, removed a whole bunch of service offering that is not really profitable for them. They can continue to do that if they wish to do so, but we're focused primarily on their core service offering, that the projects they love to do, those that are more profitable. It's their core skill set. So we've changed everything to focus on their core skill set and the service offering. So they're going to attract those type of projects, and they'll get others by accident. So I'm really excited to press go on that soon. I think it's going to help their message. We've done this so many times. We know that to be true. It just happens all the time because people are so involved in their business and they want to have everything in there. But by saying everything, people get overwhelmed and they miss the main key aspects.
Do you think this industry is getting more or less lucrative?
The my industry or the clients, do you mean?
Yours.
Mine, yeah, yeah. We had our most profitable year ever, our last financial year. We report end of June, so a few months ago now. That was the most profitable financial year ever. Yeah, so we're doing really well. Industry wise, I don't know. I know a few people in the industry, and some I think certainly are struggling. The difference, I suppose, might be because I can't know precisely what they're up to, but we've adapted fairly heavily with AI. So we've improved our systems and processes to get projects done faster. So the same outcome is achieved, but we've just reworked our standard operating procedures to make that happen. So maybe some of the companies who aren't adapting fast enough, they're potentially going to be left behind. I don't know. It'll be interesting in a few years to come, and it maybe not even that long with the way in which technology changes. Maybe they don't need us so much from a technical standpoint in the near future, but maybe they need us more for the high level thinking and processes and advice, because the technical aspect of building a website is probably going to get so easy that anyone can do it.
Yeah.
We can already see that with vibe coding. I don't know if you've played around with that. So I've just got to lift my game. We've got to lift our game as a company and say that, okay, we're just going to bring a higher level of value to our customers, and find ways that we can support them. That's really that's how business is successful. That you've got to just provide high level value at a lower cost than the value is for the end customer. So yeah, we just got to find new ways to adapt.
Yeah, I look, again, I'm no expert, but I would think that doing something I think what you're referring to is something more along the lines of, specialized consulting. I do think
Yeah,
that would definitely make a lot more sense because artificial intelligence is getting so good now. Like, you could actually just the other day, I made an HTML page with just using a command prompt from an AI system. So,
yeah.
this isn't difficult at all.
It's it's so good and easy, and at the moment, for some more high level things, you need some level of understanding to know that what it's producing is good quality, the coding, etc. Yeah, we can see that eventually, maybe even that level of understanding isn't required because the technology understands this stuff better than us. I mean, just yesterday, someone had an issue with, we don't typically do this often, but someone had an issue with their email signatures in Outlook for the whole company. Whoever designed it originally, just the coding was a little bit funky, so it didn't display properly on all devices. So I just dropped the code straight into ChatGPT and just explained the problem, and it rewrote the code, and it was done in, you know, for me, just the time in which it took to write the prompt. I mean, I walked away from the computer, it did its thinking thing and came back and it was fixed. I mean, those things, it might have, it was never going to be a large project, but it might have been an hour or two to figure out what was exactly wrong with it. But it was done in a matter of seconds, really. So, and that's just one small example of what's happening. So, whenever there's bugs and problems, it's like finding a needle in a haystack sometimes with the code. You can imagine just lines and lines of code. and you're trying to figure out what's broken. And so this will just search through and go, "Do-do-do-do-do-do." There it is, fix it up, it's done. It's so powerful.
So now that you kind of have a good understanding of the future, what do you think will be the future of a lot of these companies, at least in so we were talking a bit about your industry, but then you're talking now about the companies you work with. Do you think they will also need to evolve? What ways do you think they would need to evolve?
Yeah, I think every industry is eventually going to need to evolve. Certainly, any and career paths. So think about it individually as employees and staff members of companies. If you're sitting behind a desk right now and doing work day to day, your work is on a computer. Your work is most vulnerable to change. So you need to think about what those changes might look like and how do you adapt into a career path that is likely to occur in the future. But that's even true of people who pick up a hammer. We work with construction companies, people who bricklay. Eventually, I mean, we're going to have robotics and stuff doing it. Well, I was at a seminar for the construction industry late last year, and so these are prag, practical, pragmatic, hands-on kind of construction workers and leaders and so on. And they just showed some of the AI tech. They showed a video of bricks being laid by robotics. I think it was in Canada, the project actually occurring, but they were controlling it in Australia. They didn't need anyone on site or anything like that. I mean, they needed someone to set up the robotics and so on. But the technology of doing that thing, I mean, it's just one glimpse of what might be. And I think eventually every industry is going to be impacted. I'm depends who I'm listening to at the time. Sometimes I feel a bit negative about it all because I don't know what it means for humanity. But other times it's kind of exciting too because I mean the potential to navigate and find new ways to do life and what is it to be human? What is it that we value? I mean, we've built our lives around our work. So much of our identity is around work these days. Maybe that changes. I don't know.
All right. Well, thank you again, Wes, for being on the show. This definitely was very informative and educational. But before I let you off, I think this is
Yep.
important for the audience. Is there any way for people to get in touch with you, to look at your content, to look at your resources, to maybe get a good insight of what your plans are, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. So our website uplift360.com.au. From there, if people are that way inclined, they can book a strategy call with me directly. That's cool. But there's also lots of resources in there. For example, just the other week, I published a whole bunch of ChatGPT prompts to help people optimize their own website. So there's constantly resources added there that you can use. You don't need to give your email address or anything like that. You can just download them and use them.
All right. Well, thank you again, Wes. This has definitely been a privilege. This was definitely very educational. And I hope to see the rest of you all again on the James Parris edition. Have a great day.
Thanks, James.